Good morning, and good morning again. This is Black Talk Platform with your host, Dr. Deborah D. Jenkins. I am pre recording this on Friday morning. I am under the weather, but I did not feel that this could wait. Today's episode is entitled Reparations. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Erasure, power, and why we do not negotiate our humanity. I want you to sit with that. I want to slow us down this morning because this is one of those conversations where emotions can rush ahead of clarity, and clarity is exactly what this moment requires. If you know me, you know that I am one of those people who is very passionate about anything and everything having to do with Black Americans and the injustices and the harms that have been caused to us in this nation. And because of that, I speak out. Because of that, I fight on. There are reports and confirmations that under this administration, the Trump administration, elements acknowledging enslaved Africans, Blacks here in the United States, connected to the president's house in Philadelphia, have been removed, minimized, or reinterpreted. The president's house, the first executive mansion of the United States, is not just another historic site. It is a place where enslaved Black people lived, labored, and were held in bondage while helping build the very foundations of American democracy. That history is not symbolic. It is structural. It is documented. And it is inconvenient. So when an administration moves to strip away visible reminders of slavery from that site, whether through physical removal, narrative reframing, or institutional silence, we're not talking about decor. We're talking about power over memory. And power over memory is power over the future. Let me be very clear about my position today. This is not about partisan politics. This is not about personal dislike. This is about whether Black Americans are allowed to tell the truth about what built this country and whether that truth can be bargained away. Philadelphia is not accidental. Philadelphia is sacred ground in American mythology. It is where liberty was declared, where constitutions were debated, and where freedom was written into parchment. It is also where enslaved Africans cooked the meals, cleaned the rooms, served the presidents, and lived under bondage while freedom was being discussed upstairs. George Washington himself rotated enslaved people in and out of Pennsylvania to avoid emancipation laws. That's not radical history. That is true history. That is documented history. So when we see moves to erase or soften that truth, especially from the president's house, we must understand what is happening. This is not historical housekeeping. This is historical cleansing. Why erasure comes before negotiation? Now, here's where the conversation will become uncomfortable, even within some Black spaces. There are some reparationists right now who believe we should negotiate with this administration, that perhaps there is a deal to be struck, that maybe access, proximity, a compromise could yield material gains. Let me say this calmly and without apology. I do not believe we negotiate with an administration that is actively erasing our history. You do not bargain with someone while they are deleting the evidence of your injury. You do not sit at a table with someone who is pulling down the receipts. That's not a strategy. That is surrender dressed up as pragmatism. And I know that word terrorist makes people uncomfortable, but terrorism is not about bombs and guns. Terrorism is also systematic fear, erasure, and destabilization carried out by the state. When history is erased, the harm is ongoing. Erasing slavery is a reparation strategy, just not ours. Did you hear me? Here's the part we must not miss. Erasing slavery from public memory is not random. It's not cosmetic. It's not cultural. It is a legal and political strategy. If slavery is minimized, if Black suffering is abstracted, if the crimes are framed as complex rather than criminal, then reparations becomes unnecessary. Then accountability becomes unreasonable. And then Black claims become negotiable instead of owed. This is why Philadelphia matters. Because once you can erase slavery from the president's house, the literal seat of executive power, you can erase it anywhere. Immigration, proximity, and anti-Black alignment. That's what I want to talk about now. Let's be careful and honest about this. The president himself is the son of an immigrant. And increasingly, we are seeing that some sons and daughters of immigrants align themselves against Black Americans when the conversation turns to reparations. This is not about immigrants as a monolith. This is about political alignment. Many immigrant groups came to this country after slavery, after Jim Crow, and after the legal foundations of racial hierarchy were already set. Foundations built on Black exclusion. And now some seek proximity to whiteness by distancing themselves from Black claims. I need you to hear me now. Some adopt the language of merit, hard work, and move on while benefiting from systems Black Americans were locked out of. And when reparations come up, suddenly Black Americans are asking for too much. We're just asking for too much. We cannot afford to let that shake us because reparations are not a competition between the oppressed. Hear me. They are a debt owed to a specific people for a specific crime. And even though you hear this passion, I know it must be anchored in discipline. I want to say clearly, as a Black truth teller, because I include myself in this, passion is absolutely necessary, but discipline is essential. The goal of erasure is not just to silence us. It is to provoke us into sounding unhinged, unreasonable, or extreme. And that is why I'm choosing my words carefully today, not because I'm unsure, but because our opponents count on us losing composure while they rewrite the record. What we must refuse to do is to be a pawn in their game. What we must refuse to do is to let slavery be framed as a footnote in the ugly history of this country, to let Black suffering be interpreted away, to let access replace justice, to let negotiation replace accountability. And most importantly, I believe, we must refuse to let anyone tell us that remembering is divisive. For Black Americans, memory is survival. The president's house in Philadelphia stands as a test, not of history, history's already written, but of courage. Will we defend the truth even when it costs us access? Will we refuse deals that require our silence? Will we insist that reparations are not charity, not compromise, not negotiation, but justice delayed and still owed? Because once a people accept erasure, they will accept anything. And Black Americans have accepted enough. This has been Dr. Deborah D. Jenkins, host of Black Talk Platform. We do not bargain with our history, and we do not negotiate our humanity. And we will not be shaken. Bless you all, and if you're in the path of the storm that is coming, please be safe. God bless you all.